Hey guys, making this screencast to summarize what you did in Desmos activity on extrema. So we have two kinds of extrema, relative and absolute. You have maximums and minimums. Those are what we consider extrema. They're extreme points on the graph. So a relative maximum is the highest point in a particular section of a graph, and then the relative minimum is the lowest point in a particular section of a graph. So every single graph has the possibility of having extrema, and those are these like turning points. So like right here, that would be a turning point. That's a turning point, okay? This is not a turning point because the graph doesn't change from increasing to decreasing. So extrema only occur when your graph changes from like decreasing to increasing or from increasing to decreasing. So you have to be careful on the graph this is not an extrema. Okay, and then you have absolute minimums and maximums. An absolute min is a y-coordinate that is less than the y-coordinates of every other point on the graph. We'll go over what that looks like. And an absolute max is the highest y-coordinate compared to every other point in the graph. One thing to note is that a polynomial can only have a maximum number of extrema that's one less than its degree. So for example, if you have a cubic, that's a degree of 3. It can only have a maximum possible number of 2 turning points, and then it goes down in pairs, so 2 or none. Let's look at some functions. So you see this is a degree of 1, linear functions. Notice they don't have any extrema because they don't have any turning points, right? It's either always increasing or always decreasing. So no extrema for either of these. If you look at degree of 3, which is another odd function, you can see that this has no turning points, so no extrema. But this one over here has 2 extrema. They're both relative because there is a y value that's lower than this extrema, and there is a y value that's higher than this extrema because of the end behavior always going opposite directions. So we have 2 extremas, one relative min, one relative max. Over here we're looking at even degree functions. Even degree functions can have relative or absolute extrema. Okay, so odd degree can only have relative extrema. Even degree can have both. So if I'm looking at these two, these are parabolas. This has an absolute minimum because it goes from decreasing to increasing. This has an absolute maximum. Okay, so there's your 2 extrema, or 1 extrema for each of these. Notice again, this is a degree of 2. It had 1 less than that, which was 1 extrema. Okay, for a degree of 4, maximum possible that you could have is 3. It's 1 less than the degree. Or you could have 1 because it goes down in pairs, so 3 or 1. So here's an example of a degree of 4 where it has 1 extrema, 1 absolute min. Here's an example of a quartic or a degree 4 that has 1, 2, 3 extrema. This one here would be an absolute max because it's the highest point on the graph. There's no other y value higher than that because both of these ends go down. And that's just a little summary for you of extrema.